It's Friday, August 9, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. So glad you can join us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. The Barbados economy is on the right track. Today, Central Bank Governor Cleviston Haynes delivered an upbeat report on the island's performance for the first 6 months of the year. He told reporters there have been major improvements in some areas, though growth continues to lag in others. For the first 6 months of the year, government revenue was healthy, with an increase of 7.9% to reach $725.6 million compared to the $672.4 million recorded for the same period last year. Additionally, international reserves almost tripled what it was last year to reach $1.2 billion or 15.3 weeks of import cover by the end of June.
The outlook for the Barbados economy has become more favorable over the past 12 months. The public finances have improved, the international reserves have recovered, and the financing pressures created by high indebtedness have started to ease. Indications are that investor confidence is returning, but as expected, economic activity for 2019 has been sluggish. Growth from the tourism sector has buoyed economic activity, but faster project implementation is required to push the growth above the forecasted range of 0% to 0.25%. With the strengthening of the macroeconomic environment, an anticipated further pickup in tourism, and an acceleration of investment, the current forecast for 2020 is in the range of 0.75% and 1.25%.
Governor Haynes stressed that the government must continue to maintain its fiscal discipline as its economy continues on the path to recovery. Meanwhile, he suggests there will be no major fallout from government's decision to write off unpaid value-added taxes from 1996 to 2000.
The government has examined taxes that it was owed. It has obviously come to the judgment that collecting some of those taxes was going to be difficult, and therefore it has taken a decision to write those taxes off. Those are not part of our expectation for the revenue for 2019, 2020 and beyond. They have not been built in. If one had received them, there would be sort of like surplus to what is being forecast at present.
Barbadians who shop online have a little more time to do so VAT-free. A year after announcing plans for the collection of VAT on foreign online shopping, government is still having difficulties implementing the new tax. The measure was expected to begin since October 1, 2018, but has been delayed several times, and it is not likely to be implemented for another 2 to 3 months.
My understanding is that there are still some teething issues in relation to the online tax, which they are trying to resolve, and they envisage that this should be resolved in the next few months, next 2-3 months, and therefore the implementation of the tax has been delayed.
Education officials this evening announced this year's scholarship and exhibition winners. At a news conference, Deputy Chief Education Officer Joy Adamson announced there were 27 scholarship winners and 36 exhibition winners. Queen's College took the lion's share of the awards, 16 scholarships and 17 exhibitions. Harrison College earned 10 scholarships and 10 exhibitions. The Barbados Community College 1 scholarship. The St. Michael's School earned 7 exhibitions, and the Christchurch Foundation 1 exhibition. Education Minister Santia Bradshaw congratulated the top students and urged them to give back.
I would encourage you to return to Barbados because we need some help. And you know, a lot of times we are finding that after we have made the investment in your careers, a lot of persons are not returning to the island. We want to be able to encourage you to find ways to give back to Barbados. And giving back doesn't necessarily mean you have to come back. It may mean you have to pay back. But it also means that in your respective fields and you know, your chosen careers, that you have to be thinking of Barbados. And thinking of Barbados not just as a place where you come back to vacation, but somewhere where this country needs you to be able to continue to help pull some weight.
In other news, Kenya President Uhuru Kenyatta wrapped up his three-day visit to Barbados this evening, and Prime Minister Mia Mottley has declared it a success. She told reporters that Barbados has inched closer to building stronger collaboration with the African continent, along with plans for a double taxation treaty, which is expected to be signed later this year. Plans were made for an African-Caribbean summit, and an open invitation was issued to Caribbean countries to maintain a diplomatic presence in Nairobi. Barbados will also be visited by the governor of Kenya's central bank, as well as a delegation from its revenue department to push forward the process on the double taxation agreement. The Kenyan leader has agreed to finance the development of 2 acres in the international section of the National Botanical Gardens that is currently being built out. 3 Colombian men today pleaded guilty to carrying out ATM scams at different banking locations between July 28 and 31. They are 47-year-old Sorin Cretu, 45-year-old Luis Alberto Salazar Espinal, and 36-year-old Luana Souza Castro. Cretu pleaded guilty to stealing $300 cash belonging to Republic Bank Barbados Limited on July 30. Magistrate Christy Cuffy Sargent imposed a $2,000 forfeit fine and ordered that he be deported. The money was paid. Espinal pleaded guilty to stealing $1,500 belonging to the same bank between July 28 and 31, as well as having 11 cards with magnetic readable strips for use in connection with theft when he was not at his place of abode on July 31. He was fined $2,500 forthwith with the alternative of 2 years in prison. A deportation order was also imposed, but the money has not been paid. He was taken to HMP Dodds along with Castro, who pleaded guilty to stealing $800, property of the same bank, between July 29 and 31, as well as having 8 cards with magnetic readable strips in connection with theft when he was not at his place of abode on July 31. A $2,500 fine was imposed on him with an alternative 2-year prison term if unpaid. A deportation order was also imposed.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, Trinidad's Public Administration Minister Marlene McDonald and her husband Michael Carew are still in police custody, being questioned in relation to corruption allegations. McDonald and her husband were taken into custody yesterday morning after police officers executed a search warrant at her Valley View, Maracas, St. Joseph home. Police also searched McDonald's Port of Spain South constituency office in Placidy Street.
It was a long day for Public Administration Minister Marlene McDonald, which began with her arrest and a subsequent police search of her Maracas St. Joseph home early this morning. According to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and Communications Ministry, the minister and her husband were detained by officers in relation to alleged corruption offences. An unnamed neighbor of Miss McDonald told TV6 that she came outside of her home at around 6:30 a.m. and saw a number of police vehicles at the minister's premises. In heavily tainted vehicles, police left the minister's home shortly after 11:30 a.m. and proceeded to her Port of Spain South constituency office on Piccadilly Street. There, they continued their search. Minister McDonald has served as a minister in the current government on 3 separate occasions. In 2015, she was appointed as Minister of Housing and Urban Development, but was sacked in 2016 after being investigated by the Integrity Commission for her role in state payments to the Calabash Foundation. Then in 2017, she was appointed as Minister of Public Utilities, but was fired again 2 days later after she was photographed with an alleged gang leader at her swearing-in ceremony at President's house. In March 2018, she was appointed as the minister for a third time, this time as Minister of Public Administration and Minister of Communications.
On the international front, U.S. President Donald Trump says serious discussions are taking place between congressional leaders on meaningful background checks for gun owners following 2 mass shootings. Republicans have long resisted imposing background checks on gun buyers. Now, Trump says it's a chance for Republicans to do something meaningful to address the problem.
There's been no president that feels more strongly about the Second Amendment than I do. However, we need meaningful background checks so that sick people don't get guns. And we did do things after Parkland, but it wasn't to the same level that I'm talking about now. You know, we did do the fixed NICS and various other things, so we did do a lot of work after Parkland. But I think we have now a chance to do something really much more meaningful. I think we can do meaningful, very meaningful background checks. I want to see it happen. So I've got a lot of support, and I also have the support of other people on the other side. And I think the Democrats and Republicans have a chance to really come together.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on ISOB Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.